This week on Christian World News, an illusion of peace. While President Trump seeks to broker an end to Russia's war on Ukraine, Vladimir Putin continues his attacks. Plus, boardwalk prayers and baptisms on the beach. Every summer, thousands flock to Mallorca, Spain for days of revelry. See how hundreds of Christians are introducing them to a new life outside the party zone. And the sport that's taking America by storm, Pickle Ball, is the fastest growing sport in America. See how churches are tapping into its popularity. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Christian World News. I'm George Thomas. My colleague Wendy Griffith is out on assignment. Well, the White House is, boy oh boy, facing major roadblocks on the path to peace for Russia and Ukraine. Not only is Russia's Vladimir Putin putting off a one-on-one meeting with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, he's also continuing to send drones and missiles. Take a look. The White House attempts to end Europe's most destructive war is turning out to be a lot harder than expected.
The president has always said that there are areas of disagreement in this war that will have to be discussed and decided upon by these two countries. And so he wants these two countries to engage in direct diplomacy.
The push for a face-to-face meeting comes after Trump met with Putin in Alaska last week and then welcomed 7 European leaders and Ukraine's President Zelensky to the White House on Monday. They're looking at places like Geneva, Vienna, Rome, Budapest, and Doha as possible spots for the meeting. But Trump acknowledged late Tuesday that Putin might not be ready to end the fighting, telling radio host Mark Levin, quote, "It's possible. He doesn't want to make a deal."
I don't think anyone in Ukraine has the illusion that a meeting with Putin could suddenly bring peace. It's not as if at a meeting with Zelensky, Putin will suddenly say, "Yes, I was mistaken. I confess. I withdraw the troops. I give back the territories."
The Kremlin is also downplaying talk of a meeting between the two leaders anytime soon. On CBN's Faith Nation, Peter Doran of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies spoke of Putin's strategy.
Vladimir Putin is trying to win more victories at the negotiating table than he's won on the battlefield, and he's injecting poisoned pills into these negotiations, and Trump is trying to cut right through that.
For Ukraine, any peace deal has to come with strong security guarantees. There's discussion of sending European troops to Ukraine to prevent Russia from taking more land.
We have European allies that are ready right now to put themselves in the fray, to send their soldiers to Ukraine, and that message is going to be communicated to Russia. If you attack Ukraine again in the future, you pick a fight with us.
As for Trump, he's ruled out sending U.S. troops, but he's open to the idea of using air power and other support to back up the Europeans and the Ukrainians.
The president has definitively stated U.S. boots will not be on the ground in Ukraine, but we can certainly help in the coordination and perhaps provide other means of security guarantees to our European allies.
In the meantime, Ukraine says last night's massive drone attack shows Putin has no plans to back down. Russia launched almost 100 drones and missiles at Ukraine's Odessa region, sparking a large fire at a fuel and energy facility.
What the Russians do and have done over and over and over is stall. And it allows their military to continue to bash, batter, bombard the Ukrainians, which they've done.
Steve Moore is with the Ukraine Freedom Project, and he joins us now from Kyiv. Steve, your organization produced a documentary called A Faith Under Siege about the persecution Ukrainian Christians are facing right now from Russian forces. Tell us what it's like for churches in the occupied territories, the areas controlled by the Russians.
Well, yeah. Putin has tried for 10 years to take over Ukraine, and he's got about 18%. And, you know, what most of your viewers probably don't know is that Ukraine is a highly functioning country outside of that 18%. where Putin controls, the worst things in the world are happening, and they're happening to Ukraine's Christians. So Putin has shut down every church in occupied Ukraine that he does not control. He has killed, our movie, A Faith Under Siege, documents 47 cases of pastors and priests being killed. It's up to about 60 something now. And so, Putin is not stopping. And these peace negotiations are not about land. They're not about territory. They're about people. And there's nearly 3 million Christians who live in occupied Ukraine who can't go to church like me and you, and Putin wants more.
Yeah. On that very point, Putin keeps sending drones and missiles. Yesterday was a massive attack. Do you think he really wants peace?
No, not a chance. Putin wants to put together the Soviet Union. He wants to rebuild the Soviet Union. And if anyone had any doubt about that, then, you might have looked at his foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, and his choice of attire. He wore a sweatshirt that said, in the Russian letters, USSR on it. And, he did this whole video thing walking around Anchorage in this T-shirt that says USSR. And so, it's almost laughable to think that Putin is a, good faith partner on peace, because he's continuing to kill children. He's continuing to traffic children out of Ukraine. And it's just not, you can't take him seriously.
Yeah. Ukrainians, obviously, Steve, want this war to end. What kind of peace is acceptable to them?
Well, nobody wants to give up any territory. They particularly don't want to give up any territory that Vladimir Putin has been trying for 11 years to take and has not been able to take on the battlefield. And so that being said, if there were some tight security guarantees, then I think that Ukrainians might be willing to give up some land, but certainly not going to give Putin additional land that he hasn't taken. But Putin's not serious about security guarantees. His latest obstacle to getting in dialogue with Zelensky is that he doesn't want any chance that Ukraine can join NATO, and he doesn't want any Western troops inside Ukraine. So where does that leave Ukraine with security guarantees? And it doesn't.
Yeah.
So what he wants is to take over Ukraine and the rest of Eastern Europe.
And it's so interesting. He wants the Chinese and the North Koreans, as well as his own country, to be involved in any talks about security guarantees, which is absolutely laughable. There is a segment of the population here in America who think the U.S. should not be involved in helping Ukraine defend itself. What do you say to this?
Well, we have spent $15 trillion at the DOD since Putin came into office, $15 trillion. And let's say 20% of that is gone to deter Russia. That's $3 trillion. And it hasn't worked because Russia's invaded its neighbors and caused all kinds of chaos in the world. But we've sent about $187 billion to Ukraine. And for that amount of money, the Ukrainians have taken out 1 million Russian soldiers, about 12,000 tanks, a third of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. So, what we've been doing with Russia has not been working. What the Ukrainians are doing is working against one of our long-held foes. So, it seems like a good deal to me.
Finally, how can our viewers pray and even help the people of Ukraine today?
Yeah, well, I would invite them to go to faithundersiege.com and watch our movie, A Faith Under Siege, and forward it to their friends. Have their pastors, please, show that in their churches. We're doing a lot of work. I'm actually right now raising money for a doctor in Slavyansk who had his car and his hospital blown up. So we're trying to find him $10,000 for a car. And you can go to ukrainefreedomproject.com or for ukrainefreedomproject.org and make a donation there. And in terms of praying, just pray that, I think, before we got on the air, you had a beautiful prayer. Change Vladimir Putin's heart, because that's the only person that can really bring peace. Vladimir Putin, the Lord needs to do some work inside him, and pray for that.
Yeah, awesome. Steve, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on the broadcast all the way from Kyiv, Ukraine. Coming up, every summer, young people come to Mallorca, Spain to live the party life. See how hundreds of Christians are introducing them to a new life. That story in a moment. Folks, welcome back to Christian World News. Mallorca, Spain is a party destination for Europeans, but for 2 weeks in the summer, hundreds of Christians are there to share the love of Jesus. Boardwalk prayers, beach services, and ocean baptisms are all part of Reach Mallorca. My co-host Wendy Griffith spoke with Gernot Elsner about the Gospel Tribe and about his amazing ministry.
Gernot, welcome to Christian World News. Tell us about this outreach. Who are the supporters, the participants, and why did they do it?
Yeah, you just said it. We were 350 young people, a lot of them from Germany and Switzerland, but also a larger team from Spain, from the US, from Eastern European countries. And just every year we come to Mallorca because it's one of the most fruitful places for evangelism. You got to imagine there is a huge party zone. There are 19 million tourists coming every year, and we're just right there, and we're able to reach thousands every night. The people that go, they pay for themselves. In fact, like every person that goes costs us money, but we want to keep the price down that we can carry more and more evangelists to the island.
It sounds like such an amazing party atmosphere. How does it all work together for evangelism?
Well, you got to imagine the party zone, and there's a little boardwalk just in front of the discotheques. And people, they step outside just to take a break from drinking, and partying. And we're there right in the sand with a little stage. And every night at 9:30 and 11, we have about 300, 400, sometimes even 500 people coming. And first, when they see us, they're kind of perplexed because it's the last thing they imagine to have somebody talk about Jesus right there. But a lot of them are just standing there, sitting there, some of them for hours. They come back every night. They listen to the messages, to the testimonies. Some give their lives to Jesus, and others are even baptized in the ocean.
Well, you also had a reggaeton festival with about 1,000 people and sponsored by 7 churches. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we try to focus not just on reaching German-speaking or English-speaking people, but also Spanish-speaking people. There's another party zone on the island where most of the people are Spanish. And so we kind of convinced 7 churches that usually don't really work together. Each one of them is very small, and they're all kind of busy with their own thing. We convinced them to work together for an event. And the city administration gave us permission. They put a stage there. And so we invited some artists from Spain, reggaeton musicians, and we just put it on the square. And the churches, they considered it their event. But it drew more than 1,000 people in that night, and they were just beaming for joy that in their city, where, like, let's say 20 years ago, they were still persecuted for their faith, they could proclaim the name of Jesus, people would find the Lord, and it would all happen in their city. And we were really glad that as Reach Mallorca, we were able, to bring them together in unity and also see the gospel preached in Spanish there.
Tell us about the party boat and the nightly baptisms that take place.
Yeah, one of the people we got to know in Mallorca is a lady, and she owns a big boat, and there's room for 90 people. And usually these boats are used for party tourism. So people would get drunk on the boat, they would listen to music and all that. And we asked her if we could rent the boat for half a day. And we filled it half with Christians and half with non-Christians. So half of them were our people and half of them were invited people. Some of them even just invited the night before the reggaeton festival. And then the concept was that we wouldn't preach at them, but that we only share a small input about the gospel. And those people on the boat that are Christians, they knew what their job was, and that was talking to their friends. And they kind of could not get away for the 4 hours we were out in the ocean. And it was an amazing time that they really, really enjoyed. Now, you were also asking about the baptisms. So every night when we do the beach services, there are people stepping into the sand, they're coming to the cross, they're sharing their life stories, they're really repenting at the cross, many of them. And if we feel that people are ready, and particularly that they haven't drunk alcohol, we offer them to baptize them. And I'm just thinking of one person that we baptized this year. His name is Jose. He's from Switzerland. He lives on the island, and he went through a lot of bad stuff. He saw his sister killed in front of his eyes. His brother died of drugs. And he even shared that he had a girlfriend that was into occult practices. And one time he wanted to grab a Bible, and the Bible moved without anyone touching it. And that made him aware there needs to be a spiritual reality. And so he started to cry out to Jesus and receive him in his life. And he was approaching us because he heard the gospel, at the beach services, and said, I want to be baptized. And from that evening, every night he came back, he brought his friends, he shared with them, you need Jesus too. And he just wrote to us again. He said, there's so much joy and love and trust and hope in my life since I was baptized. And those are the type of stories that really keep us going and want us to repeat this every year, because there's such a grace on the place.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. Coming up, it's the fastest growing sport in America today. See how churches are tapping into the enthusiasm for Pickle Ball. A growing sport is taking America by storm. Almost 20 million Americans are playing pickleball, and churches are also tapping into its popularity. Jenna Brada has more.
It's fun, social, and relatively easy to pick up. Pickleball, America's fastest growing sport.
It's just so much fun.
Courts have popped up all over the country, and here at Emmanuel Church in Huntingtown, Maryland, they have 3.
We have a lot of regulars. It falls off a little bit during the summer months because people can play outside, and somehow that's a little bit more fun.
Courts are open Monday evenings to members who are allowed to bring up to 2 guests. Bill Holston, one of the organizers, begins each session with a short word and prayer.
We ask you to keep us safe as we play. Christ's name I pray. Amen.
From there, the games begin.
Well, when we're playing, it's pretty competitive, but it's really a good time. It's fellowship time, and we just we enjoy each other.
Because I used to be like a person who was always in a shell, like kind of like nervous about doing things, but this has kind of really opened me up to other things and being able to fellowship with other Christians and having a mutual fun time together.
It's part of a larger growing trend happening across the country. Churches tapping into the popularity of pickleball to grow community and also as an outreach to non-believers. In addition to Mondays, Emmanuel invites the community to play on the 3rd Saturday of each month.
Evangelical churches, Catholic churches, Methodist churches, non-denominational churches do pickleball, which is kind of fun. They use it as sort of outreach and community building and are having a good time with it.
Bob Smetana of Religion News Service talked to churches across the country about the trend.
It is a game that anyone can play. So that's what folks told me. The first time they show up, you can go from never having played to playing and having a good time fairly early.
An estimated 19.8 million Americans played pickleball in 2024, up about 45% from 2023. And Bob's right, it really is for just about anyone.
We've got 80-year-olds playing, all the way down to 10-year-olds, and we can play together.
Yeah.
And it's just such a sport that I think that everybody just has fun.
Christine King brought her young granddaughter to this session. She tells me they've had several people show up for pickleball who then started going to church.
And that's just been, I think, what I see as just a God thing, or they haven't been to church for 20 years, and then they come, and some have been, maybe in a different religion, and I thought was pretty cool.
Bill put it this way.
When I had first become a believer years ago, back in the mid-'70s, there was a concept of friendship evangelism, and this is what it is. Reach out to your neighbors, reach out to your friends, reach out to your coworkers, and give them something cool to do with you guys.
And that's it. Have fun, get some exercise, and grow the kingdom. One dink at a time. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Finally this week, Christians worldwide are mourning the loss of Dr. James Dobson, a champion of family values. The founder of Focus on the Family, he also hosted a daily radio program and wrote more than 70 books. Lori Johnson has this look at his life and legacy.
Psychologist Dr. James Dobson has been called one of the most influential evangelical leaders of our time, devoting his life and ministry to preserving the family. In 1977, he began the radio program Focus on the Family on 34 Christian stations. It eventually grew to 7,000 stations in 150 countries, and at its peak reached 220 million people each day. Dobson also wrote numerous bestsellers, including Dare to Discipline and What Wives Wish Their Husbands Knew About Women. He also started the influential Family Research Council and served as an advisor to 5 U.S. presidents, including Ronald Reagan.
He said, I want you to tell me what I can do to strengthen the family. I said, why not a family impact study commission?
After more than 30 years at Focus on the Family, Dobson left in 2009.
There were philosophical differences, and it was obvious that I saw things a little differently than the person who was my successor.
He began a new nationally syndicated show called Family Talk.
You cannot have a strong country without strong families. That's the next generation.
Dobson also brought his family message to the 700 Club many times.
Pat, all of those traditional views are under attack today. And everything that we have believed about the family for thousands of years, literally, is being questioned now and being undermined. And there is a real danger that the family will disintegrate.
Almost every day, things are coming out of Washington that assault righteousness, standards of righteousness, and assault the family.
Dobson also didn't hesitate to wade into culture wars, taking on issues like abortion and gambling.
My heart bleeds for what's happening in my country at this time. Killing 1.5 million unborn children who cannot speak for themselves.
It destroys families. It creates incredible problems with pathological gambling and problem gambling. There's just many, many people who are addicted to this stuff.
And through it all, he stood firmly with the message that Jesus Christ is the answer.
The most important thing is that this country desperately needs a revival, where people would fall on their knees before God in genuine repentance and forgiveness. When you get it right with Him, you tend to have it right with the people around you.
The Republican Party cannot save us. The Democratic Party cannot save us. There is only one answer, and that answer is Jesus Christ. Do you agree?
Lori Johnson, CBN News.
A life well lived. Folks, that is it for this week's edition of Christian World News. From all of us here, goodbye. And as always, God bless you.